What's up YouTube? I'm Valentin the Mad, and this is a Gore review of Killing Floor 2. To say I've been waiting for this would be a bloody understatement. I was hyped for this game since the PC Gamer reveal, and probably watched the Gore and weapon related dev diaries a bit more times than I should. Tripwire are aiming for the most advanced Gore system known to date, and they are inspired by my favorite Gore game, Soldier of Fortune 2. That's almost all it takes to get me really excited. So the early access is out now, and after quite some time on the Killing Floor, here is the Gore review. Keep in mind that this is a review of the very first version of Killing Floor 2 early access, and a developer from Tripwire confirmed that this is not the final form of the Gore in the game, so Killing Floor 2 will receive a separate review on official release. Well, how is the Gore in the early access version of Killing Floor 2? Let's find out. I'll be reviewing every aspect of the game's Gore effects, and the score will be set based on 4 categories: body damage, environment, animations and sounds, the feel. Each limb has 3 points of amputation. The torso has several variations of destruction, the head can be dismembered and has several variations of damage as well. The head destruction variations are very cool. According to Tripwire, there are 5 variations. They look really gory, and blood is splattered on other parts of the body too. There is a huge but to this though. You can really see the full scale of the head gore only when attacking a dead Zed. Let me explain. If you shoot an average Zed, the first shot will reveal the skull, but further shots will just pop the head. So there is pretty much no way that you will be seeing something like this happen in combat. It does work a bit better with the bigger Zeds, such as the Flesh Pound and the Scrake, where you can reveal one side of the skull and blow off the jaw. But for some reason, you can't ever reveal the entire skull, no matter how much you shoot, and if they die from a headshot, the head just pops. The variations are already there, and it would look so much more awesome if we could activate them dynamically instead of just popping the head every time. As for the other dismemberment, it's great. The torso dismemberment variations are probably the best I have seen in gaming. It looks glorious, with all of the organs you can see when you blow off a part of the torso, and the blood splatter on the body is amazing. The limbs dismemberment looks good, but I think it could look nastier. Removing some meat to expose the bone, with more splatter on the body, would make it look a lot more brutal. Obliterating a Zed with a grenade will destroy most of the body and send some limbs flying. Tripwire talked about working on Zed obliteration in the very first Gore dev diary, so I'm pretty sure that this will change during early access. When it comes to non-dismemberment damage, you have bullet wounds, cuts, and there is a damage variation that reveals the inner organs. The bullet wounds work and generally look okay, but they aren't exceptional. I also noticed them disappearing when a Zed dies, which looks kind of weird. You also have one variation of damage on the lower torso that exposes the inner organs of the Zeds. The ideal non-dismemberment body damage would work like this: gory looking body wound decals with different wound variations for different weapons, including one for frag grenade shrapnel that we don't have right now. That, along with large non-dismembering wounds similar to those we have on the lower torso, but mapped across the entire body. It's not that what we have now is bad by any means, but seeing the awesome dismemberment of Killing Floor 2, along with some of the strongest features of Soldier of Fortune 2 and Left 4 Dead 2, would really be next level stuff. The cut wounds aren't great. There are some detection issues when you won't see the cut where you should, and they generally look small and not very gory. It's especially disappointing when you deliver a non-dismembering hit with the katana and often see nothing. I want to talk about the nail gun for a moment. I absolutely love this type of non-standard weapons, and I love anything impalement related in video games. So I was disappointed to see that the wounds this weapon causes are identical to regular gunfire wounds. I think that not ordinary weapons like this one need extra attention on the receiving end. It would need a gory wound with the nail sticking out of it. You got to have this stuff to really feel that you're using a nail gun. Just a badass sound effect on shooting isn't enough. Zeds killed by the flamethrower will have a crispy burned body which looks absolutely brutal and awesome. When getting burned, some of the smaller Zeds freak out and the bigger ones just get angrier. The flesh pounds response is really remarkable here. I do think that the death animations for burning could and should be longer to deliver a stronger effect. One thing I was wondering about before release is how will the fights with the bigger characters and the bosses work? Will they be bullet sponges, or will there be some extra body destruction for those characters to compensate for the long health bar? Unfortunately, they are bullet sponges. Yes, they have the average Zed's Gore system, but the Dismemberment is just activated on death, and they really have a big damage threshold until you see it. They are definitely challenging and pose a real threat to the players, but the fights with them are not very satisfying. The thing is, when you fight an average Zed, you see great response for each shot you take, which is not the case with the bigger ones and the boss. I think those characters should have a more advanced mutilation system in which you remove chunks of the body without killing the character. See the metal parts on them get progressively destroyed, and just generally have them get dynamically disfigured before they die. Of course, it's a lot of work, but seeing something like that would really make an enormous difference. I have a video where I talked about this issue in more detail, and you can find a link to it in the video description. As for the players, they just drop on death with a damaged character model that will be the same every time. Taking the gameplay into account, I'm obviously not expecting a realistic response for each hit on human characters, but I do have a few suggestions to make this aspect more fun. So seeing a damaged player in a game like Killing Floor 2 is not necessary at all. But I do think players could get progressively covered in blood as they kill Zeds in close range. Right now there are some blood stains on the characters, but you have to look hard to actually see it, and I noticed those blood stains disappearing after some time even if the player didn't die. I think those effects should be more dramatic, and the blood stains should stay on the player for as long as they're alive, so that you could really see the difference between a player who was picking off Zeds from a distance and one who went destroying them with a shotgun point blank for 6 waves. Also, player deaths should be more brutal. The bigger Zeds look really badass, so seeing a player just drop after a flesh pound finished him off is definitely underwhelming. My suggestion is a brutal execution move for each type of Zeds with proper looking body damage. The damage doesn't have to be dynamic, just a few gory variations for executions by different Zeds. Blood stains the environment after pretty much anything. You also have decals if there was a surface behind the Zed, and you have blood pools for dead human characters. The blood stains generally work very well, and really, if something should be painted red, most of the time it will. So unlike many games, the blood splatter in Killing Floor 2 is more than just a fancy particle effect and actually stains the environment. The bloodstains themselves look pretty good. Not exceptionally gory, but their size is right and they do the job. The actually functional blood splatter mechanics make the process and the aftermath of a Zed killing session to look and feel really awesome. When you have the floors, walls, and even some of the ceiling painted red. I did notice some issues about those mechanics that hopefully will be addressed during the early access stage. I'm not talking about bugs here and there and the occasional laggy surface, but a few consistent issues that will happen every time. First, on non-dismembering hits. You will see blood spilling on the ground with no splatter below the character. Also, it will stain surfaces on ridiculous distances behind the Z, but won't stain the ground if there is no surface behind him. Second, when a grenade obliterates Z, you will see a huge blood splash effect. I have no complaints on the effect, it actually looks really cool and fits well. But the problem is that it doesn't stain the ground proportionally to the huge size of the splatter. You would expect the surface below it to be painted red, but it doesn't, and this issue is very noticeable when you throw a grenade at a group of Zeds. Both of those issues should be fairly easy to fix, especially when the necessary mechanics are already there, and hopefully I won't be talking about them on the Gore review for the official release. Now, how is the mess in the long term? Tripwire talked about blood that will stay for the entire game, but how about the bodies? So by default, the maximum amount of bodies that can stay is 15, but the good news are that it's easily configurable. One of the config files for the game has an entire section dedicated only for the Gore effects, where literally every single thing can be easily modified to stay for as long as you set it. From the amount of bodies to the maximal amount of bullet wound decals and much more. You can find the guide to do that in the video description. What should also be noted is that the frame rate is playable even with an entire room packed with bodies. So obviously don't expect 60 FPS on something like this, but the frame rate remains very playable, and that was a very pleasant surprise. The great blood splatter mechanics and the persistent blood and bodies make the aftermath look really, exceptionally great, and I can't think of many games that can offer a similar experience. Seeing all of that mess after you finish several waves of Zeds really gives a whole new meaning to the name Killing Floor. As for the animations, you have animations for hit reactions and animations on death that are combined with ragdoll physics. The hit reactions are very cool. You have a lot of different animations for hits in different parts of the body that blend in with each other if you keep shooting the Z. The whole process looks and feels awesome. The weapons feel nice and heavy, and seeing good response on the receiving end feels great. There are a few buts to this though. First, there is no change of behavior for wounded Zeds. You could say that they are genetic freaks and they feel no pain. That's acceptable and makes more sense than seeing a human running around with 3 wounds in his chest. But I think that it's always better to have that wounded behavior feature, especially in a game with bigger Zeds that can take a lot of bullets before they die. Also, Zeds will often keep attacking you for about 5 to 10 seconds after their head has been destroyed. It's definitely cool, but why not have a similar feature for limb dismemberment as well? A Zed without a leg could crawl to you and try to grab you. A Zed without an arm could keep attacking you, or just panic that they lost a limb and bleed out while painting the surroundings red. As for the death animations, you have animations combined with ragdoll effects, and the Zeds wiggle for a second or two before dying. It doesn't look bad at all, but I think there should also be some longer and more dramatic death animations too. So one Zed could just drop, another could try to attack you as he's bleeding out, while the third one could just wiggle on the ground for about 10 to 15 seconds before dying. The sound aspect is very cool in Killing Floor 2. The sounds of heads cracking and popping are great. The sound of blood spilling is awesome. And that sound you get when blasting a Z into chunks of meat is so damn satisfying. The impact sounds in Killing Floor 2 are some of the best I heard in gaming. One of the loved features from the first Killing Floor game is the comments of characters, and this feature made it to Killing Floor 2 as well. The comments are fun, the voice acting is great, and that is really all that's needed here.
You disgust me.
As for the Zeds, you have some moans of pain on non-fatal hits and screams of death. some of which are really cool, like the one you have for the crawler. Those screams are fairly short though, and I think that they could and should be longer. One of the things that made Chivalry in Medieval Warfare awesome for me is the sound aspect, and a big part of it are the screams of characters that are taking hits and the moans of dying characters that are absolutely brutal. I think that the Z response sounds should have a bigger role in the game and should be more satisfying. In the bottom line, it feels great. Killing Floor 2 offers an experience you can't find anywhere else. There is a lot of detail put in every single aspect of the Gore system, and you get a very complete experience when playing the game. That is something I really can't say about most of the games out there, and Tripwire deserve all of the credit for that. Of course there is room for growth and improvement, but those things feel minor when you look at the big Gore picture that is Killing Floor 2. So the score for body damage is 22 out of 30, the score for environment is 26 out of 30, the score for animations and sounds is 22 out of 30, I give the feel a score of 9 out of 10. So this gives Killing Floor 2 Early Access Gore system a total score of 79 out of 100. Well, have Tripwire succeeded in making the most detailed Gore system known to date? Absolutely. The attention to detail in every single aspect is incredible, and the game just feels awesome. It most certainly lived up to the hype, and I'm looking forward to seeing more maps, weapons, and most importantly, the improvements to the Gore system. Hope you enjoyed watching the review. Let me know how you feel in the comment section, and if you liked the video, subscribe and share it with your friends. You can find a link to all of my Gore reviews in the video description. Until next time.